Hey everyone, it's been a crazy couple of weeks, but we're back from our hiatus. And this week, in honor of Hillary's passing, I'm gonna say join us as we discuss the Hillary Hour. Stay tuned for this week's Restless Wrap.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hey everybody, I'm Rachel Goodman. We have one crazy tearjerker week to discuss. As I said in the intro, we're gonna call this the Hillary Hour in honor of Hillary because, okay, I know some people don't like her, some people love her, some people cannot stand her and are glad. There was a hashtag running in this group saying hashtag hit Hillary with a bus. Whether you like her or don't like her, I'm gonna have to say it now. She deserves, the actress who plays her deserves an award for this week's episodes, period. My husband and I were crying and we couldn't stop. That was just how sad this was and how, yeah, exactly. Thank you. It was like pretty much every other episode. Not even, it was every episode. I look over, my husband's crying, I'm crying. It was one of those, you're not crying, I'm crying weeks. Not days, not moments, weeks. So in any case, we have a lot to talk about with Hillary. We'll call it the Hillary Hour this episode just because of that. But not only Hillary, we have other people, other characters, with all that's been going on in Genoa City since we last discussed it here on Restless Wrap. So first of all, let's give a shout out to some of the people in the chat. We have Zoe Johnson, Hubby Joe, Demo, Jacob, Maxwell Comics, and I think that's everybody here today. So I'll keep shouting out for people who come in. Before we get into the segments in the show, I have been talking to Tiffany, aka Klex Anvers, the last 3 weeks since we've kind of been back. She and I have been talking about the show, constantly as things have been happening. She's been giving me updates. So I wanted to share her fan video first. It is a Tessariah fan video created by our very own Tiffany. So let's go ahead and take a look at that first because, oh yeah, we've got some Tessa and Mariah storyline things to talk about here as well. So without further ado. I'm sorry. Okay, so as Tiffany and I were talking through, she was telling me about the video and how basically she made it kind of short because, as you guys know, with Tessa and Mariah, we kind of are left hanging. There's a preview for next week that shows Tessa might be coming back, but Tiffany sent this video to me probably a week or so ago, so I know we've had some updates since then, but we're just kind of going through their story, and these two have been through an awful lot since we've kind of seen them together. We got a lot of closure this week too, even though we were going through a lot with Hillary, and I feel like that's part of what brought it out too, was all the emotions that Mariah was going through and how she kind of came to see that she had a lot of family even in Genoa City, that she didn't even kind of recognize. I mean, she kind of knew they were a family, but it was like she felt it in a deeper way after this week's episodes. I have to say though, worst case scenario, even if Tessa and Mariah don't stay together, at least they had a lot of they were able to discuss a lot of what was happening between them before, and Mariah gave Tessa the journal. So, all right, we have a lot to say about Hillary. So let's talk about Tessa and Mariah first, because that was another major event that's been going on, and we just watched the video. So let's jump into that and just discuss everything happening with them this week. And if anybody, after we get done that, we will take callers. So just kind of really briefly, because we want to get into Hillary. And I know there's never such a thing as talking about Mariah and Tessa too much. But just this week with Hillary, I guess we'll kind of make this a little bit quick here. So, okay, the whole thing was, as we were getting into this week's episodes, a lot had happened. Mariah and Tessa had ended up kind of being set up on a date, and it was like this cute little date where they didn't even know, they were set up by Devon and Kyle, who ended up getting them on the rooftop because of a faux security theft situation. And yeah, it turns out it's just a date, and it's like all these people, and it's this outdoor summer movie event. What could have been more, romantic for them to actually have one of their first dates? So they end up there on the roof, and things seem to be going well for them, but they barely even get a chance to go through this beginning relationship that they are now both committed to, because Tessa is still getting communication from her sister through this woman named Kimberly. That's who Mariah sees Tessa hugging on the roof a couple episodes later. And basically it's just the situation where Mariah doesn't even know who she is. She just knows, all right, Tessa blew me off. She's here with this other woman. She's hugging her. Yeah, this can't be good. But it turns out it's Kimberly who's trying to help her. Finally, Tessa admits everything. As everything's going on with Hillary, Mariah's, obviously really hurt by Tessa and what she thinks she saw. So she just kind of pushes her away as everything's happening, as Mariah is starting to take over the Hillary hour. Well, not really starting to. She has, for lack of a better way of explaining it. Tessa finally gets the chance, like she keeps following Mariah. She finally gets the chance to tell her, hey, this is what's happening. It's my sister. No more lies. I'm going to be very open with you. And then Tessa seems like she's kind of breaking up with Mariah, but only because, and up on the screen, as you can see, that was another picture that Tiffany sent me. We'll touch on this just real briefly. This happened a couple weeks ago. Ashley and Neil end up hooking up, which to me seemed out of the blue, but obviously Tiffany she called it. She was like, yep, this is happening. When I was catching up, I was like, interesting. But in any case, back to Tessa and Mariah. So we had, basically, they kind of finally had this talk, and there they are, sharing one of their kisses. That was another Tiffany picture that she sent me. But Mariah and Tessa, they finally are on the same page with everything, but Tessa seems like she's breaking up with her. And after all of this, after everything they've been through, Tessa's basically like, yeah, sorry, I gotta go be with my sister. And that's where it seems like it's heading. But then at the last minute, Mariah's like, well, no, I can't be without you. So if you're going to go and if you're leaving Genoa City, so am I. So, of course, as this is happening, hubby Joe next to me goes, they can't have that many stars leave the show because obviously they're killing off Hillary. He was like, no, this can't be happening. And in all fairness to him, that is a very good point. For them to just have 3 main characters just gone next week doesn't make sense. So that was a very logical thing for him to say. Along that vein, basically what happens is Mariah, she's all ready to go and leave and run off with Tessa and be with her. But at the very end of the week, she runs into Nick and then she runs into Sharon as she's kind of trying to sneak her way out because she doesn't want to tell anyone what's happening. And it's so sudden that she's just going to do it and go with Tessa. So she's on her way out to leave, and between these two conversations, Nick basically tells her, you know that we all love you, right? Like, he just happens to say these really caring words that make Mariah feel like she is part of this family. She can't just leave the Newmans. And then her mom, Sharon, comes in and says that, she basically says she refers to that conversation she had with Tessa and tells Mariah, hey, you're going to be the maid of honor. Let's have Tessa be one of the bridesmaids. So just between those two conversations, I kind of knew that Mariah wasn't going to go with Tessa and that she couldn't just leave her life, especially after she actually found out that Hillary was dying. There was just too much responsibility and too much that Mariah has that ties her to Genoa City. I knew she wasn't going to leave at that point. And then when she got in the car, it was a very heartfelt, final, as it seems for now, conversation where Mariah gives Tessa the journal. And it's like, to me, we had these two deep loves going on at the same time that were ending for different reasons. So we have Tessa and Mariah, And then you have Devon and Hillary. And between the two of them, it was like watching it was like watching two sets of couples who just, you know that they're soulmates and they're meant to be together, but for whatever reason they can't be together, and just watching them be torn apart. Of course, everything happening with Devon and Hillary was much sadder, considering they have no option to be together at this point. It was a ticking time bomb with how much time Hillary had left. But with Tessa and Mariah, it was still very sad, and still like, okay, Tessa and Mariah recognize that they mean the world to each other. And Mariah even says, no one is ever going to mean to me what you do, or something along those lines. So let's take a couple of comments here. Maxwell Comics, Mariah needs a good woman, not Tessa. See, I would have agreed with that before, and I kind of still do. But Tessa, at this point, I feel like she's changing, and I feel like everyone deserves that redemption. And I feel like it's going to depend what Tessa does next. From the previews, it seems like she's coming back. I don't know that for a fact yet, but we'll see. Simone, hi Simone. Mariah is hung up on Tessa for reasons I cannot find. To me, it does seem like Mariah is more into Tessa than Tessa's into Mariah. So I agree with that. In that sense, yeah, Mariah deserves someone better. I feel like the thing with Tessa is that she's still so emotionally compromised that she's not in a place where she can really give Mariah everything that Mariah can give to her. Mariah even said in that scene where they were saying goodbye that when she first came to Genoa City, the idea that Tessa would leave for her sister, Mariah wouldn't have been able to understand that because of the place she was in. But now Mariah's in a much stronger position. I feel like Tessa's the same way. She's had so much trauma in her life. She was brought up to be a certain way. She was brought up like basically, you know, fending for herself. And because of that, Tessa is also in this very cautious place. I feel like she could give everything to Mariah, but right now, just maybe not yet. Maybe her leaving and coming back is what Tessa needs for her to finally realize just how much Mariah means to her. We have a couple other comments here. Maxwell Comics says, I don't know how she doesn't feel guilty because that was Noah's girlfriend. That's just sibling code. Okay, that's true too. But then again, you can't help how you feel, but I understand. Maxwell Comics, you don't date your brother's girlfriend. Basic handbook rule, I want Mariah to find a new girl to fall in love with. Okay, that makes sense. Simone, I want Mariah to be happy because I love her, but she deserves better than Tessa. Hubby Joe, I am logical. Today, Hubby Joe, you are logical. Maxwell Comics, it would be a good storyline if Mariah finds her dad's family or whatever. I know Mariah's dad is dead, but still it will be interesting. We have some people agreeing with Simone. Simone, how about Nick pulling a General Hospital and being the man behind the mask? I lolled so hard. Okay, before we get into Hillary and Devon, let's touch on this because, okay, I had been behind a couple of weeks when I was catching up. So when I was watching this, last I had seen JT, we'll put it in quotes, had come back into the picture. And it was obviously the actor who plays JT. It was really him lurking around. I was so certain it was the actual, dude. When Victor met up with JT and suddenly JT said, "You would do this to your own son." Okay, so first, it never dawned on me it could be Nick. If you're listening now in the chat live, or if you are listening and it's not live and you would like to leave a comment, my question to you is this. Did you have any idea that this could possibly be Nick? Because the whole thing with Dark Horse and what Nick is doing behind Victor, well, what he did behind Victor's back, what he did behind everyone's back, what he did behind Sharon's back, Nick is really starting to act like Victor. Anyone feel the same way that I do? Because it's kind of crazy. And Billy even said, like during one of the final scenes, right before the punching started, Billy even said, "Oh, what are you gonna do? Grow a mustache? Is it gonna curl on the ends?" Nick said something like, "You don't want me to be your enemy." Nick is actually turning into Victor, and that to me seems so uncharacteristic, it's not even funny. Nick isn't this guy, and Sharon has every right to question what's happening with him because it just seems so out of left field, like they needed to do something with him beyond what was happening. So I don't like it. I don't like the fact that there's going to be a new Victor. I don't like the fact that Phyllis, it's going to be this love triangle between Phyllis, Sharon, and Nick for, the rest of the history of the show, kind of like how they're doing it, how they've always done it with Jack and Nikki and Victor. I don't want Phyllis to be that. I don't want Phyllis to be the, the Jack in this situation. So I just kind of want Nick and Sharon to be together. But of course, it's a soap. They have to cause problems. Problems like this that will most definitely come up when Sharon's about to get married to Nick. That is my prediction. Okay, so, and then kind of just really quickly too, let's talk about Philly. I know we will get to Hillary and Devon, but it's like I want to get to that and then just focus on it. So Philly, I know someone in the chat mentioned this, everything happening with Philly. Basically, for everyone who's just catching up too, Billy got back into gambling and it was lying to Phyllis about it. Phyllis kicked him out. They've been having some serious problems, and Sharon, everything with her and Nick, because of Dark Horse, she just took the engagement ring off. Billy and Phyllis were having problems. She kicked him out. So then Phyllis and Nick hang out, and they have 2 drinks. They didn't really seem drunk to me. And they decide, okay, we're going to hook up. And then they hook up. And then the next day, Kyle shows up, and he's like, hey, Phyllis, who's upstairs in your room? Or, who's upstairs getting a shower? And it's just all kinds of crazy. But what I wanted to say about it is that, to me, first of all, I hope that Billy and Phyllis are done now, because Billy is being a real jerk to her. And I just don't see it. I don't see it coming back after this. When Phyllis went back into the office at Jabot and Billy they were kind of making out, and there was, as I put it in my notes, heavy petting. That I kind of thought, okay, well, maybe they're just going to stay together after the way that he's been treating her now and saying, oh, you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me how to run my company. You can't kick me out of my house. He's getting this male, super ego about it. It's come on. So he's just being a real jerk. So I hope that they just break up at this point. I think, okay, so we have a couple of comments in the chat. Maxwell Comics, I hate that they're repeating the Sharon getting cheated on by Nick with Phyllis. They've already done that. Ugh, boring, do something different. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that I know from the exposition, from the dialogue, this is before I watched YNR, but I know that Nick has cheated on Sharon with Phyllis before, and it's come on, this doesn't work again. Do something different. So, that being said, why don't we take some calls and segue into Hillary and Devon? The number, if you are listening live right now, it is 5:33 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on July 29th, 2018. The number you can call us 424-253-0749. Again, if you're listening live and you want to call in, we can talk about any of the characters, but specifically we're going to jump into Hillary and Devon. The number to call is 424-253-0749. Okay, so, and then before we segue into that, we have a couple of Philly comments that I should probably mention first. Demo says, Nick cheating was so random. Phyllis lecturing Billy on honesty, please. Okay, that's true. Simone, well, I knew Phyllis was sleeping with somebody else because she handles relationships issues that way, but I agree, not Nick again. Demo, Phyllis can't stay faithful to anyone. Yeah, well, here's the thing. My final comment before we get into Havon is that Phyllis at least kicked Billy out before she slept with somebody else. So even though they were on uncertain terms, at least it wasn't just seeing a ring on the table. What if Sharon took it off because she had just cleaned the ring? At least talk to her first. Communicate with Sharon before you assume it's over. Otherwise, it's not really over. So, thanks for calling Restless Rap. This is Rachel. Who do we have on the line?
Maxwell Comics.
Hey, Maxwell. Thanks for calling in. So, are you ready to dive into Havon and everything that happened with Hillary this week?
I'm ready.
Cool. I say as I have a big smile on my face, and trust me, there was anything but smiles coming from my end.
It was just a death-filled week. It was filled with this week. It's just really emotional. And it was actually kind of weird because there was a big death in my community, and there was also the death on the show. So it was a lot of death this week. That was very emotional. Very emotional.
I'm sorry to hear that. Well, yeah, it was just so. I think sometimes YNR, they just do this certain things so realistically. It's hard not to
Yeah, it was just like it was tying into real life for a second. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so emotional. I'm crying.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's really hard. And just, I didn't want her to pass away. I didn't want Devon and Hillary to be separated. What were some of your favorite moments? I'm sorry.
I'm kind of happy about it. I'm happy, but I'm upset, and here's why.
Yeah.
Because remember, do you know the new doctor guy that's on?
Yeah, Nate.
What's his name? So you know how they were kind of doing the banter, Hillary and him were kind of going back and forth.
Yeah.
Kind of you doing that thing with it. And if you've watched Hillary for a long time, she always does that when she's like into somebody, when she's like her arguing. It's like that second grade thing of like, okay, I'm being mean to you because I like you. It's that sort of thing. So I really thought they were about to do this whole, because when I heard she was leaving, I thought the storyline was going to be, oh, she was going to cheat with Nate, and her and Nate were going to run away together. But I was like, oh, I don't want that, because that's just going to break Devon's heart, and that's just going to ruin Hillary's character, that everyone's going to hate her. But if she dies, you get what we got this week, with everyone being like nice to Hillary and giving Hillary her props and saying, and just acknowledging how great Hillary is and how hard she's worked. So I'm glad she went out on a good note and not like running away with Nate and being the bad guy or whatever.
And I agree with everything you just said, and that's true. I'd rather it be on that good note. And she really went out, like she had words with Lily, she had words with Mariah, she had words with Neil. She fixed.
And even Lily said, forgive me. And I was like, okay, yeah, she's really going to, if Lily's saying forgive me, Hillary's going to die.
Well, you know what I'm hoping they don't do, though, with it? I hope that they don't turn it into, my husband was saying this, too. We don't want it to turn into this thing where now Lily's on trial for, vehicular manslaughter, and that it turns into that. Because I feel like that would take away from the power that was this week's episodes.
Yeah.
The acting.
Honestly, it's Kane's fault, because Kane didn't tell her what actually happened.
Yeah.
So she's technically lying, but she's not, because she really thinks that the car just came out of nowhere. But in reality, Kane is telling people to lie to her and not tell her the truth.
And when Lily had the interview with the I think it was the officer, or I don't know, I'm assuming it was an officer, she said, I don't really remember what happened. So it's not like, as far as I know, unless Lily remembers something and she's not telling us, then that's actually not really a lie to say I don't remember, because if she doesn't remember, like, they were really heated in that moment. So it's very possible Lily just doesn't remember. It's surprising that I could see how Shauna would have a very clear picture of it because she was on the street. But I'm surprised Charlie knew what was happening from the back seat. So obviously
I'm surprised he wasn't more like damaged, or Lily wasn't more damaged. Because it's like the truck was really big, so I thought it would hit all of them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really shocked that it would only have really impacted her. I understand if they weren't all critically hurt, but you would think that they would have at least been a little bit more, like had to stay in the hospital longer, or had like and if Lily had a concussion, she shouldn't.
That would be worse.
Yeah, and they said that she suffered from a concussion, and fine, like, you're not going to see that much with someone with a concussion, but you would think she would have been a little more shooken up. Like,
did you think about were you? I forgot. Were you watching back when the Juliet thing was a thing?
Yeah, I was.
Do you remember when Juliet was giving birth to her baby and then she died on the table?
And they didn't even show. I mean, they kind of did, but not really. But yeah, I remember that.
I thought they were going to do the same thing with Hillary, because when they showed her on the table and then they showed her not on the table, I was like, well, dang, did they pull like a Juliet parallel where her baby survived but she died on the table? So that would be so poetic. I remember Hillary was really broken. I remember when Hillary was so broken up about the whole Juliet thing, like, oh, she died on the table and she died giving birth and blah, 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 blah. So I thought it was going to be the exact same thing. I was like, that's a really interesting poetic parallel. Like, they could have been setting this up for months.
They could have been, and it would have made sense, too, because it's also poetic in the sense that when everything happened with Juliet and the baby was born, Sam, that's when we really started to see that Hillary wanted a child, was after she became attached to Sam. So that would just be, full circle here. But that's
full circle. But unfortunately, her baby didn't survive either.
Yeah. And I was really hoping, I'm curious to see what happens with Shauna, because one of the things that Hillary made Devon promise is that he would basically watch out for her. So I'm curious what's going to happen with her.
At least I left you with one baby.
Yeah. And what I really hope is that instead of making the focus of this on Lily and maybe getting her in trouble. What I'm hoping is they focus it on the guilt that Lily's going to feel, Shauna's going to feel, even Charlie, because he was involved in this. I want to see that. And even Maddie might feel guilt because she agreed that she would basically cover for Charlie, and maybe if she hadn't, like, so she's going to be thinking all these things.
Because like that entire family for the longest time, which just hated Hillary, and to just see them cry and grieve over her, it's very odd.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Have a great weekend. We'll catch up next week.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about Hillary. Before we do that, let me jump in here and see if we have any comments in the chat. So Simone is saying a couple of things. Simone, the problem is with Phyllis, besides Jack, all her relationships are built on lust and passion. Okay, so jumping just back in with Philly for a bit here. Yeah, that's very true. And I haven't been watching long enough to really know anything other than Philly, but I can just see how they are together and how it isn't that deep. And if you look at the other couples on this show, Philly it's like more like a surface level thing. Demo, Lily needs to take ownership for what she did. Kane trying to cover up for her is shameful. I think Lily will be put on trial. Devon will be out for revenge. Charlie told Kane that Lily ran a red light, but Kane said to keep quiet. Yeah, and this is what I think is going to happen too, and this is another prediction I have. When Charlie went to find Shauna, and he said to her, you know, like Shauna was like, oh yeah, your mom ran the red light. And Charlie was like, no, keep it quiet because he doesn't want his mom to get in trouble. What I'm predicting is going to happen is that they're going to go to some kind of trial with this, or just in general as things are coming out. Shauna's going to want to tell the truth. Charlie's going to want to protect his mother, and that's what's going to drive them apart, which is also a shame because I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but I think it was for the first time. Charlie dropped the L word with Shauna when they were talking at Crimson Light, so they're getting pretty close, and it's another situation where I feel like the kids on Genoa City, they're never together that long. I don't know if anyone is listening live or not live, if anyone wants to comment on the video. Thanks for calling Restless Rap. This is Rachel. Oh, we had a caller. Okay, so if anyone wants to comment, and let me know, is this a typical thing with Y&R? Thanks for calling.
Hey, Rachel, it's Jacob.
Hey, Jacob. So I'm talking about Charlie and Maddie and just young couples on Y&R. Do you think that have you been watching long enough to know, is this a typical thing they do where the younger couples just don't stay together that long?
It seems like it because I've been watching on and off for like 25 years, but I've been watching steadily since like 13, and they've done that. They'll pair couples up, and then they'll get together, and then they'll just then it will be the end of it, and you won't hear anything about them. So that's kind of weird because they did that with Kyle and Summer. They were like a real big couple, and then I don't know if you were watching this back then, but then this guy that was a cameraman for Phil's sister's show or whatever came to town, and he totally Summer fell in love with that guy, and he totally messed her up, and there was a whole big murder, everybody in the cabin. So they do that with the couples.
Yeah.
It seems like they'll pair people up, and then they're like, oh, let's try something else. It's like they don't give it any thought. They're like, let's just try this. So like, let's act like we want to keep them together for like, work towards them being in a relationship, and then once they're in a relationship, oh, we're bored with this, so let's change it. So it's kind of a right down like go to
yeah. So kind of going along that then, what do you predict is going to happen with Lily and Devon?
The Lily and Devon, I think from what I've seen when I've watched stuff before, Devon's going to be grieving, and he's gonna lash out at Lily and be like, oh, it's your fault. It's obviously your fault. I think he's gonna like crucify her for like a month or so. So even if she doesn't get pulled up on charges of the manslaughter thing, I think Devon's going to give her heck for a while. So I think even though she may not get charges, I think Devon's going to put her through the ringer as far as feeling guilty.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like it's going to be another week of tears, too, because now that she's gone, like, first of all, that whole scene with Devon and Hillary, I'm glad they did it that way. I'm glad that he got to be with her, holding her. I would have been very upset if that wasn't the situation, if she died before the wedding or if she died when he wasn't even in the room. That would have been heartbreaking, even more than it already was. I was really hoping that they were going to, kill her in a way that we didn't know if she was actually dead or not. And that way, if the contract situation is ever cleared up with the actress, maybe she could come back. That's really what I was hoping, because they just seem like they're so, but I don't think, based on the way they did it, it was like she passed away in his arms. So I don't think that I don't think she can ever come back unless it's like a Hillary twin that we don't know about, and she sees he sees her and he's confused, or like what they did with Mariah, where it was like, an actual twin, and I don't know, but
unless it's a twin. But I don't think they're going to do that. But the thing with the Hillary and Devon thing, the scenes were really good. But what I don't like about, I know there was build up, but like the whole scenes of how they tied up were good. But I'm kind of mad the whole time for the past 7 months. He's kind of treated her like crud, and then since he knew she was good, now he's like, oh, I want to marry you. I'm like, it took you that long to say that when you were treating her like crud for like 7 or 8 months, but I'm glad it ended the way it did. It just was irritating. It felt like oh, they need to throw them together because they knew her contract thing wasn't going to work out. But I liked how it ended. It's just frustrating they treated her like crap for the last 7 or 8 months. It's like, come on, people.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So thank you for calling in, Jacob.
Okay, thanks so much, and keep up the good work. And I'm glad I'm finally caught up. It just took forever. But I'll be here next week too.
Awesome. Glad to have you back. Bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
So, okay, let's check in with the chat here. Demo, her grieving is not real at all. I think we're talking about Lily. Yeah. Hubby Joe, Lily had a real change of heart with Hillary. She could not stand her, and now she is grieving for her. So the thing is, toward the end of all this, my opinion of Lily was starting to change to more of a negative opinion. But I felt like Lily and Hillary redeemed their relationship. Not that there ever was a friendship, but they redeemed their feelings. Redeemed is the wrong word here. They kind of cleared up the negative feelings they had toward each other. Hillary, I felt like she knew, even though she didn't know until Phyllis told her. I feel like she might have known without consciously being aware that her time was limited. Either that, or maybe it was just because she didn't feel well and she felt very weak. But she seemed like she was more aware of the importance of saying sorry to people, and not just saying sorry, but allowing forgiveness, allowing herself to forgive people, but also giving her own apologies so that other people could forgive her. And she just cleared up everything. One last thing I wanted to say before we get to our law moment, and I know this is a hard week to talk about a law moment, but there is one. One thing I just wanted to mention here was just kind of some of the lines between Hillary and Devon, just because they were so meaningful, and it was just one of the most... Before this, to me, Y&R had done a great job with the abuse storyline between Victoria and JT. In my opinion, before they turned it into a not murder mystery, but kill the guy and clean it up. Before they turned it into that, the abuse storyline itself I thought was handled very well, and it was one of my favorite things they'd ever done on the show because of how realistic it was. Until this happened with Hillary and Devon, because to me, and I know even Max was saying this, that it just happened to parallel something else happening in his life at the same time. But for me, even though death is not surrounding me, it just felt so real that it was really hard to watch, and it just hit all the emotional spots. This final conversation they had, it was Hillary saying, I'm just happy I get to spend the rest of my life with you. And they're talking about Havon babies and where they're going to go for their honeymoon, and then they kiss, and they're talking about all these future plans, even though both of them know that she has limited time, but it's like they're doing it to kind of live out the fantasy while they can. But then Hillary, in typical true Hillary fashion, knows that she can't just keep living a lie or a fantasy. And then she goes, we don't have much time, and tells them that she knows. Devon, in their final moments, some of these lines are, Devon, I don't remember not loving you. You're the reason I wake up in the morning. This is what people meant when they talk about love. And then Hillary says, you have to promise me something. I want a big service, and I want it to be a big celebration. I don't want it to be sad, and everybody better wear hats, like royal celebrity style. And then, this is also Hillary, and then later, after, I need you to move on, because there's some amazing woman out there who's going to make you smile again. And then she's saying how the world needs more fathers like Devon. And one of the final things she says is, I had a blessed life, but your dreams, they can't end with me. So I wanted to read that because of how impactful it is, how amazing that writing was. And we'll leave it on that. We'll leave it on that note. The flashbacks, yeah, we can end it there too. They had some flashbacks. So on that note, oh, we have a call. All right. Thanks for calling Restless Wrap. This is Rachel. Who's on the line?
Hi, Rachel. It's me, Tiffany.
Hey, Tiffany. Thanks for calling in. So we just ended on the somber note of Hillary, and I was going to ask, what was your, if you had one, what was your lull moment of the week, or was there anything else you wanted to say about, I know we touched on Tessa and Mariah earlier, but if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
You know what? I don't really know if I have a lull moment, but I will say, well, actually, no, I do have a lull moment. My lull moment would be, as horrible as I'm going to sound for saying it,
I think I know what you're
would be
gonna
the
say.
Hillary death thing, because we have kind of predicted it a little bit with the whole getting hit by a truck thing.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But, you know, I mean, I know you're getting ready to end the show. I just wanted to call in because I just got home. But,
well, thanks.
I don't know. I think in general, it's been a good week.
Yeah.
I'm happy that Mariah and Tessa are finally a thing.
Yeah.
Here's hoping they will get a happy story. I don't think there's really such thing as an ending for YNR, but you know.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see what happens too. It would just, I know you and I were talking about this, how they can't just, every other couple at least got a couple of weeks. They got like a week, and then it was like, yeah, I gotta go. Bye. It's like, come on. Give them some time to be together before you tear them apart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the thing that really annoyed me the most, too, though, is that it did have to do with Crystal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but the whole Crystal sex ring storyline, when it was, I was just kind of not a fan, and I was just kind of over the whole Crystal thing.
It was good for a while, and then it got old, and they really dragged it out. So I think at this point, you're right. They can't, if they keep doing more with that, it's one thing for it to be like a minor plot point, and then she leaves and comes back. And I know, like, spoiler alert, sorry, but I know that we were talking about how she does come back, Tessa. But if it was just one little thing and she's back, okay, fine. But if it keeps coming into play and then suddenly we're dealing with the sex ring again, yeah, we spent too long dealing with it. We don't want to see it again.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know what, I will say this much, again, spoiler alert, I do want everyone to look forward to tomorrow's episode.
Okay,
because
cool.
I have seen it, and it is really good, especially the first, 3 minutes or so. It's really... I mean, I have not secretly been the biggest Hillary non-fan, but even it made me kind of emotional, and by the end of
No.
the episode, I was just like a bawling, sopping mess.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay.
So-
We have something to look forward to now.
Yeah, for sure.
So bring everyone who hasn't watched Monday's episode yet, bring the tissues. It looked, when they showed this, next week on Y&R, when they showed it, it looked like it was going to be some very tear-felt moments. But thank you for calling in, Tiffany. I'm glad we caught you before the show was over, and we will.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, we'll catch up.
All right, I hope to talk to you on Facebook
Yeah,
soon, and
bye.
I hope everyone enjoys tomorrow's episode of Y&R.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Bye.
Bye.
So on that note, let me tell you what my law moment was. Gotta have that. It was the punch. It was when I think it was Billy who punched Nick first. Correct me if I'm wrong, but either way, Nick turned around and punched him back, and it was just like, come on, like, you people, like, what is wrong with you guys? So just in any case, that was the funniest moment for me. I didn't think I was gonna have one this week because it was just so sad. So in honor of Hillary, again, we're gonna dedicate this episode to her character and call it the Hillary Hour. I'm just going to read a couple more comments here. Hubby Joe says Crystal and Tess are running the sex ring. Okay, Hubby Joe, Zach was just a pawn. And that is how we keep the sex ring in this story, which is exactly what we don't want. And then our final comment is Demo, no more sex ring? God, no. Oh, wait. One more comment, Hubby Joe. Kyle videotaping the fight was my lol. Okay, that was my second lol. So I forgot. Okay, let's talk about this really fast before we wrap up. Why would Kyle be videotaping the fight between Billy and Nick? What is he trying to do? He's supposed to be, I don't know. I don't even know. Just the fact that it should have been some random stranger, not Kyle. But we'll leave it on that. We'll leave this episode on a kind of, more fun note than the somber note the rest of the week was. But again, my name is Rachel Goodman. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Rach Goodman or on Facebook at Rachel Ann Goodman. Also, if you haven't done so already, feel free to go over to our at Restless Rap page on Facebook, like and follow. That's where I always post the link to the show. We can talk Restless Rap on there as well, and Y&R. Feel free to message me too, because if you want to talk to me about Y&R, I will include your comments on the show. But until next week, everyone, have a wonderful week, and we will talk Y&R next Sunday.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.